Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Parashat Emor. Today's class is sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shlema of all Am Yisrael. Amen. Here we go, Rabotai. Parashat Emor, which is known as the Kohanim's Parashat, deals a lot about in the beginning with Kohanim and the different laws that are pertinent to Kohanim. But I'd like today to focus on chapter 23. So if you have a Chumash, please open it up to chapter 23. V'daber Adonai Moshe Emor, God says to Moshe, Daber el Bnei Israel, tell the Jewish people, V'amarta alehem, and tell them, Mo'adeh Hashem, Asher tikreu otam mikrai kodesh. These are the fixed times of the year that are holy. Elehem mo'adai, and here they are. So we're about to go right now and list all of the holidays of the year. Okay, do we know what the holidays are? Okay, we know there's holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Shavuot and Pesach. Purim is not in the Torah. Purim didn't happen yet. Chanukah is not in the Torah. It didn't happen yet. But those are the holidays, and a lot of the laws of the Hagim are learned from our Parashah, from this chapter right here, chapter 23 in the book of Leviticus. It's very interesting that the holidays appear in this book of Leviticus, of Vayikra. Okay. But here they are. And what should be the next pasuk? If I were to ask you what's going to follow, it should start listing the holidays. But look at the next pasuk, pasuk Gimal. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha. By the way, for 6 days a week you should work. Ubayom hashevi'i Shabbat Shabbaton. On the seventh day is a holiday, is a holy Sabbath. Don't do any work. Shabbati l'Adonai b'chol moshe. It is a day of Shabbat for Hashem. So it's very interesting that the Torah begins by telling me about here are the holidays. And by the way, there's something called Shabbat. Make sure you keep it. Why is the Torah throwing in Shabbat over here? Many different answers. One answer is that Shabbat and holidays are connected. Kol ha-mehalel, whoever desecrates holidays, it's like they're desecrating Shabbat. The beautiful idea is explained, and that is as follows. We know, Rav Moshe Feinstein says that Shabbat is really us testifying that Hashem created the world. What is a person saying when they keep Shabbat? I believe that the world has a creator. The world has a beginning, and he created for 6 days, and he rested on the seventh, and therefore I as well create for 6 days, and I rest today on the seventh. That's the statement. The testimony that you're making every Shabbat is I believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why when we make Kiddush, we stand up. We're testifying like a witness in Bet Din has to stand up. We're testifying to the fact that Hashem created the world. That is a beautiful statement. But there is another side of the coin, and that is that not only to testify that Hashem created the world, but Hashem continually runs the world. You know, some people believe that He created it, but He left it on autopilot, and He left us alone, and He left, He's gone, and it doesn't concern with this world. He doesn't care what's going on. That's also incorrect. A person has to believe that A, God created the world, and B, Hashem is continuously sustaining the world. He is here, He is involved, and that's what Yom Tov is all about. Yom Tov, all the holidays really are that statement. Hashem changed the laws of nature. He's concerned with Pesach. Sukkot, He protected us in the desert. He's involved in mankind's affairs. And therefore, we see why Shabbat may be hinted to in the beginning paragraph over here, because Shabbat is a really same idea of Yom Tov. They go hand in hand. My grandpa, Alav Shalom, used to always say the idea in the name of the Gaon Mevilna. The Gaon Mevilna says something beautiful to answer this question. We have in a year, how many holidays do we have? I know it feels like a lot. You know what I mean? How many holidays do we have? Really, not so much. I'll tell you. Let's count it together. Let's start from the beginning of the year. We have Rosh Hashanah. That's one day. Again, in America we keep 2. Anywhere out of Israel, but in its inception it was 1. So Rosh Hashanah is 1 day. What's next? We have Yom Kippur. Then we have the first day of Sukkot. You have Shemini Atzeret, the last day of Sukkot. I mean, technically it's a new holiday, so it's the 8th day. That's number 4. Then nothing left till Pesach, day 1. That's number 5. Pesach, day 7. And Shavuot. The whole year, all these 7 days extra of holidays. Now we know out of these 7, we're allowed to cook for food, We're allowed to eat, we're allowed to enjoy. If a person has to cook even, they're allowed to break Yom Tov. Unlike Shabbat, I'm not allowed to cook on Shabbat. I am allowed to cook on Yom Tov. But out of these 7, 6 of them, I'm allowed to work. Which 6? All of them except for Yom Kippur. The first day of Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot day 1, Sukkot day 7, Pesach day 1, Pesach day 7, and Shavuot. Those 6 days I'm allowed to cook, I'm allowed to carry, but on the 7th, Yom Kippur is a holy day. That's a day that's fasting, that's a day I cannot cook. And that's maybe what the Pasuk is alluding to. Here are all of the holidays, I'm about to give them to you. Take a look back in the text, Pasuk number Bet, Pasuk 2. Here are my holidays, and by the way, 6 of them, you're allowed to work. The 7th is Shabbat, Shabbaton. The 7th is Yom Kippur, holy. It's not referring to the weekly schedule. 6 days a week you could work, and the 7th day is Shabbat. Maybe it's alluding to the 6 holidays of the year you're allowed to work. And the 7th holiday is Shabbat, is Yom Kippur, Shabbat, Shabbaton. Beautiful idea from the Gaon Mevilna. But let's go, and I would like to share with you some beautiful nuggets on the holidays, and more specifically, we're going to see how the Torah is really so brilliant in even the dates of the holidays and the wording of the holidays. You'll see what I mean in a minute. For starters, what's the first holiday mentioned in the Torah? Which holiday does it begin with? It begins with the holiday of Pesach. Okay? Now, if you ask most people what's the first holiday of the year, we would say Rosh Hashanah. But the Torah begins with the holiday of Pesach. Maybe the Torah is going according to the monthly calendar, and according to the months, Nisan is the first month of the year, and therefore it makes sense that the first holiday should be the Pesach holiday, because that's what falls out in the first month. Okay. But there is another answer given based on a very important Atbash system that I'm going to teach you now. I spoke about it in the past, but please pay attention to this, because if you don't know what I'm about to tell you now, the rest of the class today is going to be very boring. Okay? The Bet Yosef writes that it's very easy to know what day of the week every holiday is going to fall on. You just need to know one thing. You need to know what day of the week Pesach fell out on. If you know what day of the week Pesach is, you'll know what day of the week every other holiday is going to be. And how is that? How do you know? What do you need to do? What's the math equation? He says very simple. At Bash. What does that mean? At Bash. At is Aleph Taf. Take the first and last letter of the alphabet, then take the second and the second to last, third and third to last, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna write it, and if you have paper, you can write it as well. Okay? Aleph Taf. Right? The first letter is Aleph, the second letter is Taf. The last letter is Taf. What's the second letter? Bet. Then is corresponding to Shin. Shin is the second to last. Third letter, what's the third letter? Aleph, Bet, Gimel. A, B, C. So Aleph, Bet, Gimel. What's the third to last letter? Resh. Okay? So far you with me? What's the fourth letter? Dalid. What's the fourth to last letter? Kuf. Okay? So let's just stop over here for a minute. Okay? Take a look, my friends. You have over here, I wrote Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Taf. Says the Bet Yosef, when you know this, you know the rest of the holidays. Aleph is what number? What number is Aleph? 1. The first day of Pesach will always be the same as the holiday that begins with Taf. Which holiday begins with Taf? Tisha B'Av. Okay? So we know Pesach this year was which day of the week? Pesach, we just had it a few weeks ago. Pesach was a Friday night. Take a guess. When is Tisha B'Av going to be this year, in a couple of months? It's going to be Friday night. Look at your calendars if you don't believe me. Okay? So Pesach, you can know already, Tisha B'Av is going to be Friday night. Next, Bet 2. The second night of Pesach was what night? Saturday night. Saturday night, you now know Shin. Which holiday is Shin? Shavuot. So you know Shavuot this year, in another couple of weeks, is going to be Saturday night. Again, don't believe me, look at your calendar. This year, Shavuot is Saturday night. Next, Gimal, the third day of Pesach. What was that? That was a Sunday night. Sunday night's going to automatically be the same as Rosh Hashanah. This year, if you're preparing, you should know Rosh Hashanah is going to fall out on a Sunday night. Very nice. And by the way, if you know when's Rosh Hashanah, you know when's the first day of Sukkot. Because Sukkot's exactly 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah, same day of the week. So if Rosh Hashanah is going to be a Sunday night, that means Sukkot this year is going to be a Sunday night. You don't need a calendar. You just need to know the Aleph Bet. Beautiful. Dalid. The fourth night was a Monday night. Monday night's going to be Kuf, Kriyat HaTorah. That's the holiday of Shemini Atzeret Simchat Torah. So you always know, whatever is going to be day 1 is going to be the same as, when you know Pesach, you know the rest of the holidays. You can keep going, by the way, even Hay, okay? Hay is the 5th day is going to be what? What were we up to? Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. Okay, so Tuesday night is going to be, what's the letter before Kuf? If you keep going over here, Tzadi. Tzadi is Tzom Kippur. Kippur is going to be as well. You know it. It's going to be a Tuesday night. Okay, so and the next one, Wednesday night. What's before Tzadi? Pei, Purim. But this is the only exception. Purim, not the Purim that's coming after Pesach. The Purim before Pesach is going to be always on the 6th night, which this year it was a Wednesday night. Those that we remember a couple of months ago was Purim. It was a Wednesday night. Okay? So this is a beautiful system called Atbash. Aleph, Taf, Bet, Shin. And now you know all the holidays of the year. If that's the case, we now have the answer to our question. Why begin with Pesach? Because Pesach is always going to be the indicator for the rest of the holidays of the year. Okay, quick question on the side was asked. Is Tisha B'Av on Shabbat? No, it will not be celebrated on Shabbat. We push off Tisha B'Av to Sunday. Whenever it falls out on Shabbat, we push it off. Yom Kippur, if it falls out on Shabbat, we fast. We keep it. Okay? But Tisha B'Av this year will fall out on a Friday night. We won't celebrate it on a Friday night. We're not going to fast. It's pushed off. It's called Nidhe. But it's still the OG date. The real date is Friday night. Okay? Okay. Very nice. That's why we begin with the holiday of Pesach. Now, if this is true, we'll be able to answer some other questions. Let's move on, as an example, to the next holiday. What's the next holiday discussed in the Torah after Pesach? It tells us about Sfirat HaOmer, which is what we're in right now. That's why I have a beard. Okay, I'm not auditioning for Fauda or anything like that. This is for the Omer. Okay, then we have the holiday of Shavuot. Holiday of Shavuot is very interesting because it's not given a date in the Torah. It's the only holiday with no date. Can you imagine? You ask a person, when was the Torah given? Can't really know the answer so easily. Doesn't say, actually it's a machloket when it was given. Could you imagine the biggest, most important event in our history? We don't know the exact date. Some say the 6th, some say the 7th of Sivan. Why is that? Why did the Torah tell us a date for Pesach? He told me a date for every holiday. You kept out the most important one, you left out the date. So the answer really, a lot of answers to this. One of the answers, and by the way, if you're wondering, so then how do I know when to celebrate it? I celebrated 50 days after Pesach, okay? But why did Torah not give it a date? And the answer could be because there's not always a set date to that. Sometimes it will be on this day, sometimes it will be on that day, depending on the month, if it's a full month or a full moon, or a full month or 29-day month, a missing month. But there's a beautiful story told about a fellow who hired a wagon driver to transport items for him on a certain day. The day arrived, but there was a huge snowstorm and they couldn't travel. The wagon driver came to the boss and he said, listen, I blocked out this day on my calendar for you. even though it snowed, it's not my fault it snowed, that's nature's fault it snowed, I want to get paid. I want my money. Pay up. The boss said, what are you talking about? You didn't do work for me. Why should I pay you? He says, so because I came and I was ready to work. Because it snowed, I have to suffer? Well, they went to the rabbi, and the rabbi heard both sides, and he asked them what exactly was the wording of the agreement, etc. And finally the rabbi said, the wagon driver is incorrect. The wagon driver cannot demand to be paid. The wagon driver started huffing and puffing and all upset, and he said, where'd you get this from? So the rabbi said, this is what it says in the Torah. He says, what Torah? What is the Torah? Explain the Torah to me. He says, the Torah, it's a book that we got from Hashem. And the wagon driver said, tell me, when did God give us the Torah? And the rabbi said, we got the Torah in spring. And the wagon driver said, oh, that's why. If the Torah was given in the winter, then Hashem would have sided with the wagon drivers. Right? So, the Torah leaves out the date. You know why? Because if it was given on a date, then you may argue and say, I only have to be religious and Jewish on this day. Other days of the year, I don't have to keep it. Torah was given in the spring, then I could only keep it in the spring, but in the summer, in the winter, I don't have to observe it. And that's why the location of the Torah was not significant. Same reason. Because a person shouldn't say, well, I only have to observe when I'm in this location. We don't know where specifically. We're in any place. Doesn't matter. Torah must be kept anywhere and everywhere. Okay, very nice. So now we're moving on to the next holiday after Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah. Let's read a little bit on this holiday in the Torah. So open up, please, to chapter 23. Pasuk 24. Daber el bnei Israel Emor. Now God says, next holiday, B'chodesh HaShevi'i, 7th month, Be'echad LaChodesh, first day of that month, which is which holiday? Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. That's a holiday from the Torah. Now it doesn't say that you have to eat apple and honey. It doesn't say that. But what does it say? Yelachem Shabbaton Zichron Teruah. You should have a complete rest, Shabbaton, and you should remember the loud blasts. Remember the Teruah. Right? The Teruah, shofar. Remember the Teruah. Now that word, Zichron Teruah, very interesting word. Why? Because when the Torah tells us about the holidays in the Perashat Pinhas, because we know this is not the only place that the holidays are told to us. It's repeated again in Perashat Pinhas in the book of Numbers. In Perashat Pinhas, the Torah tells us as well over there about the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, but over there it's referred to not as a Zichron Teruah, not as a remembrance of Teruah, but as a Yom Teruah, a day of blowing. So here in our Perashat it's referred to a day of remembering the blowing, but in Pinhas it's referred to as a day of blowing, an actual blowing. And based on this, the rabbis say, this proves what we ourselves instituted. We know that even though we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, there is one exception. When don't we blow a shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Anyone know? Very good. If Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbat, then we don't blow. Why? Because maybe someone's going to carry. We don't want people to sin on this important day. So, can you imagine what that means? We're pushing off the mitzvah for the year, just because maybe someone's going to violate Shabbat. If Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbat, we don't blow that year. And the rabbis said, look, that's why the Torah writes in one place Zichron, and the other place Yom. And by the way, in the Amidah itself, if you remember to Rosh Hashanah, on the years that it falls out on Shabbat, in the Amidah you say Zichron Teruah. I don't know if you remember that, but you say it in the Amidah. There's a parenthesis and it says on the Sabbath, add this. And if it falls out on a weekday, then it's a Yom Teruah. It's an actual day of blowing. Beautiful. So we have 2 days. A day that we remember and a day that we actually blow. Can I ask you a question though? Which one should be written first? What's the norm? The norm is to blow or to remember the blowing. The norm, the status quo is to blow shofar. So really, in our parasha, the Torah first should have said, blow. And then Pinchas, it should have said, remember the blowing. If is an exception and you can't, then you just remember. Why is the Torah writing in our parasha, the first we ever hear of Rosh Hashanah, it's starting off already with the exception, with the case that you shouldn't blow, with the remembering, with if it falls on Shabbat. Why is he beginning with the exceptional case? You should begin with the normal case. The normal case is you blow. When I tell you about Rosh Hashanah, if you're teaching someone about the rules of Rosh Hashanah, if you're teaching a person about rules about anything, you tell them about the rule or you tell them about the exception first. Imagine you're teaching someone about Shabbat. You tell them, listen, on Shabbat, if someone's sick, you're allowed to drive. You don't begin like that. You say, listen, on Shabbat, you're not allowed to drive. Now, if someone's sick, then you do. So you see that you begin with the rule, and then you say, if it's life and death, then you could break the rule. So the Torah should have began, our parasha should have said, you blow shofar. And if it's a Shabbat, then you don't. You just remember the shofar. So it should have started off with the rule, with the blowing, and then save the remembering for Parashat Pinchas. But no, our parasha says, Zichron Teruah. It begins with the exception. You know why? Says Rabbi Bogomilsky over here, something beautiful. What year did we leave? The year that we left Egypt? Anyone know the year that we left Egypt? What day Rosh Hashanah was that year? The first Rosh Hashanah in history. The year we left Egypt, we came out in Nisan, right? Fast forward 6 months. Rosh Hashanah comes. That Rosh Hashanah right then and there. What day of the week was it? You say, I don't know, Rabbi, how am I supposed to know that? I know that. I'll tell you how I know it. The Gemara tells us that the year that we left Pesach was a Thursday. Watch this. If the year that we left Pesach was a Thursday, please pull back out and using the rules, the Atbash rules. When will Rosh Hashanah be? Because if you know when's Pesach, you know when's Shavuot, you know when's Rosh Hashanah. When's Rosh Hashanah? Well, if Pesach's on a Thursday, so Rosh Hashanah is on a Saturday. Rosh Hashanah is on a Shabbat. And therefore the Torah begins and says, by the way, this year it's a Zichron Teruah. This year you're just going to remember. You're not going to actually blow this year because it's Shabbat. In Pinchas, we tell you about future years. In future years, it's a Yom Teruah, you're going to blow. Because future years, it's probably not going to fall out on Shabbat. Majority, it's not Shabbat. But this year, we begin with the exception because that year was the exception. And therefore, it tells you just to remember. Beautiful. Unbelievable. By the way, we're going to see in a minute something very similar. Okay? But just before we get to the next, to the Sukkot, let's keep going in order. Yom Kippur. Next holiday, Yom Kippur. Okay. We know Yom Kippur can never fall out on certain days of the year. It will never happen. Certain days of the week, excuse me. Days of the year for sure not. Guy came to the student, he said, tell me, what happens if Tisha B'Av falls out on Rosh Chodesh? Kid's like, wow, good question, I don't know. Okay? Ain't happening. Okay? Tisha B'Av means the 9th of the month. It ain't going to be on Rosh Chodesh, right? Okay, fine. Yom Kippur will never be on certain days of the week. Which day of the week will Yom Kippur never be on? There's rules for this. It can never fall out. You'll know. It'll never be. It'll never be on a Sunday. Forever and ever. Look in it. You'll never find Sunday Yom Kippur. You'll never have a Tuesday Yom Kippur. And you'll never have a Friday Yom Kippur. It just won't be. The way the calendar is, it won't happen. Impossible. So again, Sunday, you'll never have a Saturday night Yom Kippur. Right? Remember, you never had a Saturday night Yom Kippur. You had a Saturday night Tisha B'Av. I'm not talking about Tisha B'Av, I'm talking about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur will never be on a Sunday. It'll never be on a Friday. And it'll never be on a Tuesday, Monday night, Tuesday. Okay? Why? Why those 3 days not? Now again, there are reasons that we could explain because of a calendar system. To dig maybe a little bit deeper today. If you turn to the Mishnah in Masechet Kelim, okay, that's not a Mishnah that we usually quote, okay, it speaks a lot about purity and impurity. Mishnah, very interesting Mishnah. Take a look at chapter 17, Mishnah 14. We can learn the laws of Tum'ah and Tahara, by the way, very easy. And the Mishnah here gives us a huge, I don't know if you ever learned this Mishnah, but the Mishnah gives us a huge reminder, an easy trick, how to know what items become tameh, what items don't become tameh. Says the Mishnah, Ma shenivra bayom rishon, what was created on the first day? Tum'ah. Tum'ah can apply to things that were created on the first day of creation. We'll come back to this. Basheni, en bo tum'ah. Second day of creation, no tum'ah. What was created on the first day? Water, earth. These are things that do become tameh. Day 2, the sky, the heavens, don't become tameh. Next, day 3, fruits, vegetables, they do become tameh. Day 4 and 5, anything created on day 4 and 5, the sun, the moon, the stars, the birds, the fish, no tum'ah with these things. 4 and 5, no tum'ah. And there's an exception of eggs, of wings. Okay, but leaving those exceptions aside, usually, whatever was created on day 4 and 5, there's no tum'ah. Day 6 does become, man becomes tameh, animals become tameh, insects, these are all things that were created on day 6, they do become tameh. So that's the rule. What days of the week have things that become tameh were created on? Let's repeat what we just said. Day 1, yes, tameh, problem. Day 3, whatever was created on that day can become tameh. Vegetables, fruits, trees, right? And finally, day 6. So days 1, 3, and 6, they are tum'ah days in a way. The things created on those 3 days can become impure. And if that's the case, we now understand, wow, unbelievable. We now understand why Yom Kippur will never fall out on those 3 days. Because those are Tum'ah days. So Yom Kippur will never be on a Sunday, it'll never be on a Tuesday, and then it'll never be on a Friday. Wow, the day that you're achieving purity and Kedusha and sanctity and forgiveness fall out on clean days, which are Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Shabbat. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, moving right along. And by the way, let's say one more idea on Yom Kippur. Okay? It says, let's open the text. Open the text, please. Chapter, again, 23, Pasuk 27. On the 10th day of this month, which is going to be the holiday of Yom HaKippurim, Pasuk says it's Yom Kippur. Ve'initem, you have to practice self-denial, right? We know we don't eat, we don't wash. Okay. Ve'kol melacha lo ta'asu be'etzem hayom hazeh. Please do not do work throughout this day, because it's Yom Kippur. Next pasuk. Any person who does not practice self-denial on this day, be'etzem hayom hazeh, v'nichreta shall be cut off. And any soul that does melacha on this day will be cut off. Then, pasuk 31, kol melacha lo ta'asu chukat olam. Please don't do any work. Last pasuk of the paragraph, watch this. Again, it's a Shabbat, complete day of rest. Me'erev aderev, you should celebrate it from the evening till the evening. You see the problem over here? Again, the first 5 psukim say on this very day. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. 3 times it says it. Do it on this day, do it on this day, do it on this day. And then the last pasuk says, by the way, you should start on the evening before this day. You should start from the night before. Why? Why is Torah write 3 times fast on this day, and then it says, by the way, you should really fast from the evening? The explanation, again, just really appreciating how the Torah is talking to us, but it's also talking to them. The Torah was talking to a generation of people, and God was telling them. When he's talking to them, let me ask you a question. When did Moshe come down from Har Sinai? Moshe goes up the first day on Shavuot, and he went up for 40 days and he saw the Egel, and he went back up for forgiveness, and then he came down. Anyone know the date that he came down? 40. He comes down on Yom Kippur. The year that Moshe comes down is Yom Kippur. The Jews had no idea it was Yom Kippur. They're fasting, eating, they're enjoying. Moshe comes down middle of the day, says, by the way guys, today's a fast day. It's Yom Kippur today. I didn't tell you about it yet, but you should start fasting from now at least. It's like, oh my God, we didn't know. Okay, can I just finish this bite? I'm not sure. Okay, fine. They started fasting, they started keeping Yom Kippur, but they started in the middle of the day. So Moshe is telling them, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. Now, in the middle of the day, stop fasting. In the middle of the day, stop working. But in the future, it's going to be from evening till evening. The year we left, it couldn't be in the evening because they didn't know. But the year that, future years, it should be from evening to evening. Wow, unbelievable. Again, really beautiful, beautiful stuff. Helping us appreciate the holidays, the dates of the holidays, the days of the week of the holidays. You see how much depth and thought is put into each pasuk in the Torah. One final thing, and I'll let you go for today. Let's fast go. Now, we spoke about all the holidays so far. We did good. We spoke about Rosh Hashanah and Pesach and Shavuot, and we spoke about Yom Kippur. Now we have one holiday left, okay? Which holiday do we have left? Sukkot. Okay, so let's go to Sukkot now. I'm going in order, by the way. Okay? The year we left, it couldn't be in the evening because Moshe was still up on the mountain. He didn't tell us about it yet. He only came down in the middle of the day of Yom Kippur, and he said, by the way, it's a fast today. FYI. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Okay, we'll start fasting now, I guess. So they started in the middle of the day. You understand? That's why it repeats 3 times. Be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this very day. Okay, here we go. Last holidays of this chapter. Chapter 23, Pasuk 33. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Emor, God says to Moshe, saying, Daber b'nei Israel Emor, tell the Jewish people, B'chamisha asar yom lachodesh hashevi'i hazeh, on the 15th day of this month, it's Sukkot for 7 days. The first day, Mikra Kodesh. The first day is a holiday, don't do any work. For 7 days, bring korbanot. On the 8th day, again, it's a holiday called Shemini Atzeret. Don't do any work. So on day 1, don't do work. On day 8, don't do work. The 7 days in between, you could work, but it's Sukkah. You have to sit in a Sukkah. Okay, so here it tells me about Sukkot. Chazak u'baruch. Done, period. We're over. Then what happens is very interesting. It goes back and it gives me a summary. These are the holidays of the year. And I forgot to tell you. Pasuk says, not me. If I forget, that's okay. The Pasuk says, oh, by the way, on the 15th that I told you about 2 psukim ago, when you're gathering your produce, when you're celebrating the holiday of Sukkot, the 1st and 8th day that I told you was a holiday, also make sure you also bring a fruit and a lulav and arve nachal and the hadassim. Bring these 4 species together and shake them on the first day and for 7 days if you're in the temple. So what's going on over here? You see that's the problem. Torah told me about Sukkot, put a period, ended the conversation. Then it goes back and says, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, you should also shake 4 things. The lulav and the hadas and the etrog and the arava. Shake the 4 species on this holiday of Sukkot. So question number one, why didn't you just tell that to me with the first time? Put it all together. Okay? Also, if you notice, the first time it mentions Sukkot, it says, B'chodesh hashevi'i hazeh. Okay? On this holiday of Sukkot, on this 7th month. Okay? Again, let's go back. I'll tell you the verse if you want to know the verse. Pasuk 34. Lamed Daled. Okay? But then, fast forward just 5 psukim to pasuk 39, it says, and by the way, on the 7th month, it leaves out hazeh. It leaves out this 7th month. Okay, that's question number 2. And finally, if you look at one more question I didn't mention. The first time around, it doesn't say no work. Right? What does it say? דבר בני ישראל, ב-15 יום לחודש הזה, חג הסוכות, ביום הראשון מקרא קודש, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו. Pasuk 35, don't do any work. When it repeats it on Pasuk 39, doesn't say anything about that. Doesn't say anything about don't do work. Look, Pasuk 39, it says on the 15th day, when you're gathering your produce, it's first and 8th day is a day of rest. That's what it says. It says day of rest. And you should shake these 4 things. Celebrate it for Hashem. But it doesn't say don't do any work. So these are 3 very, very powerful questions. And I think you could already start sensing the answer based on today's class. My friends, the year that we left Egypt, what day of the week was Sukkot? What day of the week was Sukkot? You should know, because we said a few minutes ago what day of the week Rosh Hashanah was. Remember, what was Rosh Hashanah? What day of the week was Rosh Hashanah? The year that we left. It was a Shabbat. If Rosh Hashanah is Shabbat, then you know Sukkot Shabbat. And if that's the case, go back. It's gorgeous. Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, this year, Hazeh, this year, don't do any work, because it's Shabbat, Sukkot. You can't do anything. And that's why it leaves out the fact that you have to shake 4 things, because you're not going to shake it. You don't shake on Shabbat. But then it stops and says, by the way, in the future years, then you will shake. And that's why it leaves out the word hazeh, because I'm not talking about this year, I'm talking about future years. In future years, let me tell you, you should shake. And that's why also it's a day of rest, but it's not a day that it's forbidden to work, because if you're allowed to cook, you're allowed to carry for food, right? And therefore, that's why the second time around, it seems to be a little bit more lenient, because it's talking about Yom Tov, as opposed to the first time around, when it fell out on Shabbat, you're locked into Shabbat, you weren't allowed to do anything. And therefore, you see how beautiful the Torah really has so much depth to it. Everything is written in a specific way, in a specific order. The holidays, the days of the holidays, where they fall out on, they have so much meaning and depth to them. What a beautiful, beautiful Torah we have. Ashrenu, matov chelkenu, how lucky we are to be able to have this as our book that we're studying, so deep and so beautiful. Okay, we'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful day. God willing, we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.